Chapter 132. Certainly this man was God's Son. Matthew 27:45-56. Mark 15:33-41. Luke 23:44-49. And John 19:25-30. Chapter Overview. Jesus dies on the stake. Unusual events at Jesus' death. It is now the 6th hour, or noon. A strange darkness falls over all the land until the 9th hour, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Mark 15:33. This eerie darkness is not caused by a solar eclipse. Those occur at the time of the new moon, but this is Passover season, when the moon is full. And this darkness lasts much longer than the few minutes of an eclipse. So God has caused this darkness. Imagine the effect this must have on those mocking Jesus. During this dark period, 4 women approach the torture stake. They are Jesus' mother, Salome, Mary Magdalene, and Mary, the mother of the Apostle James the Less. The Apostle John is with Jesus' grieving mother by the torture stake. Mary watches the son she bore and nurtured as he hangs there in agony. For her, it is like being pierced by a long sword. John 19:25 and Luke 2:35. Despite his intense pain, however, Jesus thinks of her welfare. He makes the effort to nod toward John and say to his mother, "Woman, see your son." Then, nodding toward Mary, he tells John, "See your mother." John 19:26 and 27. Jesus is entrusting the care of his mother, who is evidently now a widow, to the apostle whom he especially loves. Jesus is aware that his half-brothers, Mary's other sons, have not as yet put faith in him, so he is making provision for his mother's physical care as well as for her spiritual needs. What a fine example! About the time the darkness ends, Jesus says, "I am thirsty." In this, he is fulfilling the scriptures. John 19:28. Jesus senses that his Father has, as it were, withdrawn his protection so that his Son's integrity might be tested to the limit. Christ calls out in what may be Aramaic of a Galilean dialect, "Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani," which means, my God, why have you forsaken me?" Some standing nearby misunderstand him and exclaim, "See, he is calling Elijah." One of them runs and, placing a sponge soaked with sour wine on the end of a reed, gives Jesus a drink. But others say, "Let him be. Let us see whether Elijah comes to take him down." Mark 15:34-36. Jesus then cries out, "It has been accomplished." John 19:30. Yes, he has accomplished all that his Father sent him to earth to do. Finally, Jesus says, "Father, into your hands I entrust my spirit." Luke 23:46. Jesus thus commits to Jehovah his life force, confident that God will restore it to him. With undiminished trust in God, Christ bows his head and dies. At that, a violent earthquake occurs, splitting rocks. It is so powerful that tombs outside Jerusalem break open and corpses are thrown out of them. Passers-by who see the dead bodies exposed enter the holy city and report what they just witnessed. Matthew 27:51-53. When Jesus dies, the long, heavy curtain that divides the holy from the most holy in God's temple is ripped in two, from top to bottom. The astonishing event is a manifestation of God's wrath against those who killed His Son, and signifies that the way into the most holy, heaven itself, is now possible. Understandably, the people become very afraid. The army officer in charge at the execution proclaims, "Certainly, this man was God's Son." Mark 15:39. He may have been there at Jesus' trial before Pilate, when the issue of divine sonship was discussed. Now he is convinced that Jesus is righteous and is, in fact, the Son of God. Others, overcome by these unusual events, head to their homes, beating their chests as a gesture of their intense grief and shame. Luke 23:48. Among those observing at a distance are many female disciples who at times traveled with Jesus. They too are deeply moved by all these momentous events. The following is supplementary information. To the stake! Jesus' enemies yelled, "To the stake with him!" John 19:15. The basic Greek word for stake used in the Gospel accounts is stavros. The book History of the Cross reports, "Stavros means an upright pale, a strong stake, such as farmers drive into the ground to make their fences or palisades. No more, no less." Returning to the chapter. Questions for review. Why can a solar eclipse not be the cause of the 3 hours of darkness? Jesus provides what fine example as to caring for aged parents? What does the earthquake cause? And what is signified by the temple curtains being ripped in two? How do Jesus' death and surrounding events affect those present? Chapter 133. Jesus' body is prepared and buried. Matthew 27:57-28:2, Mark 15:42-16:4, Luke 23:50-24:3, and John 19:31-20, verse 1. Chapter overview. Jesus' body is taken down from the stake. The body is prepared for burial. Women find an empty tomb. It is getting late on Friday afternoon, Nisan 14. At sundown, the Sabbath of Nisan 15 will begin. Jesus is already dead, but the two robbers alongside him are still alive. According to the law, dead bodies should not remain all night on the stake, but rather should be buried on that day. Deuteronomy 21:22 and 23. Furthermore, Friday afternoon is called preparation because people prepare meals and complete any other tasks that cannot wait until after the Sabbath. At sunset, a double or great Sabbath will begin. This is so because Nisan 15 will be the first day of the 7-day festival of unleavened bread, the first day of which is always a Sabbath. This time, that first day coincides with the weekly Sabbath, the 7th day. So the Jews asked Pilate to hasten the death of Jesus and the two robbers alongside him. How? By having their legs broken. That will make it impossible for them to use their legs to raise their bodies so as to breathe. The soldiers come and break the legs of the two robbers. But Jesus appears to be dead, and thus they do not break his legs. This fulfills Psalm 34:20. He is guarding all his bones. Not one of them has been broken. To remove any doubt that Jesus is truly dead, a soldier jabs a spear into his side, piercing the region of his heart. Immediately, blood and water come out. This fulfills another scripture. They will look to the one whom they pierced. Zechariah 12:10. Joseph from the city of Arimathea, a rich man and reputable member of the Sanhedrin, is also present at the execution. Matthew 27:57. He is described as a good and righteous man who is waiting for the kingdom of God. In fact, as a disciple of Jesus, but a secret one because of his fear of the Jews, he did not support the court's judgment of Jesus. Luke 23:50, Mark 15:43, and John 19:38. Joseph takes courage and asks Pilate for Jesus' body. Pilate summons the army officer in charge, who confirms that Jesus is dead. Thereupon, Pilate grants Joseph's request. Joseph buys clean, fine linen and takes Jesus' body down from the stake. He wraps the corpse in the linen in preparation for burial. Nicodemus, who had come to Jesus in the night the first time, helps with the preparation. John 19:39. He brings about 100 Roman pounds, or 72 modern pounds, of a costly mixture of myrrh and aloes. Jesus' body is wrapped in bandages containing these spices, according to the Jews' burial custom. Joseph owns an unused tomb carved in rock nearby, and Jesus' body is laid in it. Then a large stone is rolled in front of the tomb. This is hastily done before the Sabbath begins. Mary Magdalene and Mary the mother of James the Less may have been helping with the preparation of Jesus' body. They now hurry home to prepare spices and perfumed oils to treat Jesus' body further after the Sabbath. Luke 23:56. The next day, the Sabbath, the chief priests and Pharisees go to Pilate and say, "We recall what that impostor said while he was still alive. After 3 days, I am to be raised up. Therefore, command that the grave be made secure until the 3rd day, so that his disciples may not come and steal him and say to the people, 'He was raised up from the dead.' Then this last deception will be worse than the first." Pilate replies, "You may have a guard. Go make it as secure as you know how." Matthew 27:63-65. Very early Sunday morning, Mary Magdalene, Mary the mother of James, and other women bring spices to the tomb to treat Jesus' body. They say to one another, "Who will roll the stone away from the entrance of the tomb for us?" Mark 16:3. But an earthquake has occurred. Moreover, God's angel has rolled the stone away. The guards are gone, and the tomb appears empty. Questions for review. Why is Friday called preparation? And why is this a great Sabbath? What do Joseph and Nicodemus have to do with Jesus' burial? And what is their relationship to Jesus? What do the priests want done? But what occurs early Sunday morning? Chapter 134. An empty tomb. Jesus is alive. Matthew 28:3-15, Mark 16:5-8, Luke 24:4-12, and John 20:2-18. Chapter Overview. Jesus is resurrected. Experiences at Jesus' tomb. He appears to various women. What a shock it is for the women to discover what appears to be an empty burial place. Mary Magdalene runs off to Simon Peter and to the other disciple for whom Jesus had affection, the Apostle John. John 20, verse 2. However, the other women at the tomb see an angel. And inside the memorial tomb is another angel who is clothed in a white robe. Mark 16:5. One of the angels tells them, "Do not be afraid, for I know that you are looking for Jesus, who was executed on the stake. He is not here, for he was raised up, just as he said. Come, see the place where he was lying. Then go quickly and tell his disciples that he was raised up from the dead. For look, he is going ahead of you into Galilee." Matthew 28, 5-7. So, trembling and overwhelmed with emotion, the women run to report to the disciples. Mark 16:8. By now, Mary has found Peter and John. Breathlessly, she reports, "They have taken away the Lord out of the tomb, and we do not know where they have laid him." John 20, verse 2. Peter and John take off running. John is faster and reaches the tomb first. He peers into it and sees the bandages, but he remains outside. When Peter arrives, he goes right in. He sees the linen cloths and the cloth used to wrap Jesus' head. John now enters, and he believes Mary's report. Despite what Jesus said earlier, neither of them understands that he has been raised up. Puzzled, they head home. But Mary, who has come back to the tomb, remains there. Meanwhile, the other women are on their way to tell the disciples that Jesus has been raised. While they are running to do so, Jesus meets them and says, "Good day." They fall at his feet and do obeisance to him. Then Jesus says, "Have no fear. Go, report to my brothers so that they may go to Galilee, and there they will see me." Matthew 28, 9 and 10. Earlier, when the earthquake occurred and the angels appeared, the soldiers at the tomb trembled and became as dead men. After recovering, they entered the city and reported to the chief priests all the things that had happened. The priests then consulted with elders of the Jews. The decision was made to bribe the soldiers to hide the matter and to claim, "His disciples came in the night and stole him while we were sleeping." Matthew 28, 4, 11, and 13. Roman soldiers can be put to death if they fall asleep at their post. So the priests promise, if this, their lie about having been asleep, gets to the governor's ears, we will explain the matter.
Hey guys, it's Brent. Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe and like this video.